Good afternoon, everyone. It is 3:30, and we decided to pick 3:30 rather than 11 o'clock because we had a real snafu this morning. At any rate, here we are. I'm Stuart Fournier, your local realtor here in the South Bay, and specifically the beach cities, Manhattan, Hermosa, Redondo, and it's my pleasure to introduce.
My name is Anastasia Bonholzer, and I'm your local mortgage broker here also in the South Bay, and I'm with AMS Mortgage Services. And welcome to our show. A little tad delayed, but never lack of information. Today, we're so excited to bring you Zillow, the wonderful Zillow. All of the Zillow has to offer, the Zestimates, and uh, Stuart, tell me about Zillow. I know you said that's one of your favorite topics. I'm curious to know why.
Well, it's one of my favorite topics because of recent. Number one, obviously, I've been in this business for a long time, so I saw Zillow actually from the very
Progression.
beginning,
Yeah.
right? From the
How was
from
it in the beginning? Was it as controversial, or like as people started to kind of get to know what it was? I mean, tell me a little bit about how it used to be. I bet you it wasn't a mega giant like it is now, or at least a monopoly.
Well, there's actually an interesting story about that. I don't know if did you remember an entrepreneur by the name of Donnie Deutsch by any chance?
I don't believe that name
Okay.
sounds
He used
familiar.
to have
But tell
he used to have an entrepreneur show, and the story goes very quickly that we use a particular platform within the MLS to do all our work, to get all our data, and these guys had a new concept that they wanted to introduce to all the MLSs across the
me.
nation, and it was called Zillow, and they were really excited uh, about this new concept. So they took it to Danny Deutsch, and he said, "No, don't give that to the MLS. Don't give it to the realtors. Give it to the public." And they said, "Really?"
Oh,
And he
interesting.
said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And so the whole concept of getting your Zestimate, the value of your home, just by hitting a couple of keys, which they marketed extremely well, obviously, from the very
Yeah.
beginning. They were masters. But that's the point that I want to get to today. Zillow is a marketing company. They are not a real estate company. Now, they position themselves like a real estate company. They don't say that they are, obviously, for legal reasons, but they position themselves to appear as though they're a real estate company, but they're really far from that. They are a marketing company. They are a platform strictly for advertising
Data
services,
collection.
data
Yeah, data
collection. That's all it
collection
actually.
of consumer data that then gets sold to third parties who wants to buy that data. It's not
Exactly.
true.
So
Yeah.
that's number one. I want to get people the idea across that Zillow is not a real estate company. Now I have to give a small misnomer to that because they may have their licenses in certain states and certain locations because they've been involved in real estate transactions. But as per their main business, what they do is they take our data, all of our realtors across the country, all the MLSs across the country, and they sell it back to us basically. So we go do all the work. We find the people that want to
Right.
sell. We, get the official listing. We are the ones with the contract for the sale. And then they say, okay, we're going to allow you, now that you've given us this information, we're going to allow you to put your listing on our website. And in the process, they do give it as what they call a Zestimate. Now, one thing I'd like to clear up is when you see that Zestimate, that is not from the listing agent. It's not from a realtor. It's from their own algorithm that they created many years ago. Now, that's the other interesting part about Zillow. How does that algorithm work? Because let's be frank, there are so many variables that go into determining what the actual value of a house is. As for example, and that's the reason we're talking about it today, we tripped upon it the other day when we were talking about appraisers and what appraisers use to determine what the value of your house is. Well, Anastasia,
Mhm.
you know this. You can pay anywhere from $400 to $1,000 to get an estimate. And so
Most
why do
definitely. Sometimes
right,
there's a huge range, and you go to Zillow and you look at to see what their actual appraisal report reads, and it could literally be $400,000 difference.
right.
And so we're
It
here
could
to kind of break the block here and to say that no, Zillow is not accurate. It could be in certain circumstances. I think you made an excellent point off cameras when can Zillow be accurate? Perhaps maybe when with some modular homes or homes in a specific community, right? Built around the same time, maybe more recent even? Or what do you think? Is there ever a
Exactly.
time to use Zillow?
Basically, no, and I'll tell you why. Let me give the two extremes, okay? And I'll take the least innocuous one first. That is to say, well, let me back up a little bit. First of all, they use an algorithm, again, that's separate from what realtors use. They use an algorithm that basically draws a circle, there we go, a circle around your home, and then they cost average houses that are similar to yours, maybe square footage, age, that kind of thing, but they're loosely based on that criteria. Now, let me give you an example. We have the greatest example of how that system or that algorithm doesn't really work right here in the beach
Mhm.
cities. Now, we have the Strand. For those of you that don't know what the Strand is, those are the homes that are right next to the beach. Those are the homes that are facing the ocean. Those are the phones where people are roller skating by and wishing that they could live there too, myself
Looking
included,
at
right?
everybody's living room,
Right,
right?
right. So those houses are anywhere from 12 to $30 million nowadays, right? Now, the
Mhm.
houses right in back of them, literally, the alleyway that separates the houses that are back from them are literally millions of dollars less in terms of value. But what Zillow does is they cost average those two houses together. Why? Because they're within that circle again. Let me get that circle thing
Mhm, mhm.
going, right? They're within that circle
Yeah,
again. And so you cannot cost average an $8 to $9 million house with a $30 million house and then say, well, everything is around 14 or 15 million. It makes no sense, right?
interesting.
So
Right.
what Zillow does in that regard is they're completely off by literally thousands of dollars per square foot.
Mhm, mhm.
So they're way off. Now, let me go to the other extreme. The other extreme is when you have a tract that has maybe 100 houses in it, and they're all built pretty much the same year. They have a very similar model style, and there's a difference between a three and anywhere from a two to a four bedroom or something like that. Now, Zillow
Mhm.
does get a little more accurate in situations like that. However, even then, if that circle it doesn't
Yeah,
includes any other property, it throws it off. So bottom line
yeah.
is it's not very reliable. We've seen it on movies, we've seen it in
Pre
TV where it's like the benchmark for a location
Pretty
prices goes
laughable how
up.
not accurate it can be. Stuart, tell me, what if I, as the homeowner, wanna upgrade my kitchen? And I do a really beautiful kitchen. I fly in Calcutta marble from India, and from Italy, and I have a gold-plated toilet, and all of that essentially does go into how my bathroom and bedroom and, kitchen look and how much it's evaluated. What does Zillow know about what's the inside of my house?
Great point, and the answer is they don't. Zillow
Yeah.
doesn't know. So let's take the example again for a tract home where maybe they would come close to being accurate. Again, you bring up a great point, and your point is that how do they account for the improvements? They don't. They don't know. There
Mhm,
is
mhm.
the algorithm does not take into account, for example, the fact that you just spent $50,000 on your kitchen and you're marketing that differently. So as a result, you're going to get a certain percentage of a greater value. No, they don't do that. So it's very inaccurate. I don't suggest anybody use it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, if you want to know in what world prices are in an area, just getting a sense that way, maybe they're beneficial, but it's really something that we as realtors always have to untie and explain to people. No, it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah.
We take a lot more variables into consideration, and of course, the most important variable that we have that no one else has. Unless they're in this business and they do it full time every day, is actually visiting all these houses that are just like yours for sale so that we can
Yep.
make the obvious comparison, for example, that you just brought up, Anastasia. The fact that we actually go see that kitchen or we go see that
Yeah.
brand new backyard or whatever it is, That
Because
makes all
somebody
the
who had a
difference in the
brand new
world.
remodel would have a completely different comparable to somebody who's a hoarder home who hasn't got upgrades in the last 30 years. And
Right.
that could be literally a significant difference right there and then.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you an interesting story that'll give you
Yeah.
some perspective on where Zillow's coming from. Years ago, when I was being sold the service, the way this works is they take our listings from our portal, they put it on their website, and then they call us and they say, would you like to be highlighted on their website? And they charge us a fee for that. Again, Zillow is a marketing company, not a real estate company. Now, what
Mhm.
the representative said to me that day just absolutely floored me, because I told her, I said, you know what? It occurs to me that some of your prices or some of your algorithms, and of course, this is a long time ago when we were, getting a sense of who they were and what they were all about, they are pretty inaccurate. I don't really see them happening. And mind you, this is a representative that was probably reading off a script, right? And the script was, oh, Mr. Fournier, you know what? We understand that our information is inaccurate, but that's where you, as the professional, come on and straighten that all out. So that's how this works. You see, you're the expert, so you get to look good because you're correcting us.
Man. I'm sure I'm sure that was a great one from your perspective.
Oh, yeah,
Why have
terrific.
inaccurate
Right.
data to begin with if now I have to go in and basically clean up your dirty work for you?
And the best part
I
is
have an example for you as well.
the
Yeah.
best part is I get to
Go
pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I sell you my leads because that's
Right.
what I mean. Here's a couple of things that I encounter as a lender. So my buyer does not want to commit themselves to a buyer's agent, which usually I'm not an advocate for, but I can't make people do what they don't want to do. And so then they go to Zillow. They assume that when they say, I'd like to view this property, they are getting connected to a listing agent. That is in fact not true. That lead for a buyer then gets sold to whoever wants to buy it, to the highest bidder. And so I had an example recently where one of my buyers, she put in her information in there, and her lead was sold to an Orange County agent. So then the
Right.
Orange County agent showed her a South Bay property. And that's exactly how it works. So that's where it doesn't work. You're
Right.
not
Right.
getting connected to this agent. There's actually a name on there. It says listed by with the contact info. If you want to get a hold of the listing agent, call that person, not put your information into that Zillow database.
Right. And the biggest controversy we've had about that over the decades is that it is on there, but it's down in the bottom, to the right, to the
Yeah.
left, where you can't read it so well. So yes, I have used lead services before. I don't use them anymore because they're so unreliable. But I would say that easily 90 to 98% of the people that are calling from Zillow or other platforms like it think that they're talking to the listing agent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a little deceitful, but by the same token, you you get what you get when you pay
Yeah.
nothing and you get information for free.
Exactly.
So getting a hold of
Exactly.
a listing agent as opposed to a buyer's agent, that's another discussion, another show we should talk about,
Yeah.
what the differences are there. But it is a little
No, most
deceiving,
definitely.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
have one more story to share with you, Stuart, just
great.
really quick, just
By the way,
because
if anyone has
it's
any
on base.
comment, but I don't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but if anyone has a comment, please feel free to put it in the comment section and we can talk about it right now on the air.
Yeah, let's do it. I just have one more point. When couples are divorcing, which is my niche in here,
Right.
I often feel like this is a huge mistake done by the family law attorneys. The family law attorney not knowing how to properly assess the biggest asset that a couple has. They go to Zillow, they look at the property value, Zillow tells them $1 million. Then they go to the mortgage statement. They say, okay, $500,000 remaining loan balance. So the equity to split is 500,000. I just want to make it exceptionally clear that is not that easy. There's more to it, to the value. There's more to it, to the equity. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to go too much in depth, but Zillow is doing a disservice for the 57% of the divorce rate that's currently happening since COVID. We've had an increase in divorces recently, and I bet you a lot of people are not having a proper equitable split because their family law attorney is trying to do the job of a real estate agent and real estate loan officer.
Yeah.
There, I
That's
said it.
almost malpractice, in my opinion. It really is, because I can understand where that's cutting corners and not, if you're going to, I would say any attorney that would go into a hearing before a judge and say that they got the value from Zillow, I would hope some of those
And
judges even
judges
know better.
actually accept it. No, but
Oh,
I'm
God.
not. This is the live thing. It's my, like, I go out and I advocate for all divorcing couples. Say, at the very least, understand where the value truly is. Because if somebody's keeping the home, they don't know how much the home is truly worth. They haven't run title. They don't know what it's worth because
Exactly.
Zillow is not accurate. Exactly because of this reason.
Right. And the message that Anastasia and I want to emphasize today is that let's, make no bones about it. Your home is 95% usually the biggest asset that you have. And some professionals, I'm sorry, but it's kind of why we're on the air, is to educate you as much as we can. Some professionals do cut corners, and we're here to help you not run into that situation. If you ever, whether you're using our services or not, want to know the value of your home, both of us, obviously me a little closer than Anastasia, will give you an idea of what ballpark you're in. And of course, the ultimate thing is to actually come by your house and give you the absolute uh, pinnacle of what your house is worth within reason, right? So
Yep.
I think we'll leave it there for today. Uh,
Yeah.
sorry
Sounds
for
good,
not being,
Stuart.
yeah, sorry for not being on this morning, but hopefully we're educating you. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to address on this show, please feel free to put it in the comments section or email us and let us know. We'd be happy to tear it apart for you and talk about it, no matter how controversial it is.
Yeah, I love it. Well, until next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Next week, we'll be here. We'll come up with a new creative topic that I think we haven't yet came up with yet. But if you have any suggestions, let us know.
Bye bye. We'll see you next time, everyone, on Sand to Sold.
See ya.